Hello guys, welcome here to another episode of Out of Turn 4. I'm Brian here. Coming up, we're going to recap IndyCar at St. Petersburg. We're also going to talk NASCAR at Las Vegas and get you ready for the NASCAR race weekend at Phoenix. Of course, a lot to talk about as well news-wise. I didn't expect a news barrage like we got this week, and we got some big news regarding Chase Elliott. So we'll have that all coming up for you in just a moment. But let's kick things off by recapping the race weekend, starting with the NASCAR side of things. Kyle Busch, he won the truck race at Las Vegas, his 63rd career truck victory. No shock there. Kyle Busch always dominates whenever he enters in a NASCAR Truck Series event, let alone, of course, NASCAR Xfinity events as well. It didn't show on Saturday as much, but we'll see. He has another race this weekend behind the wheel of the Colleague Racing number 10. So again, we'll see what happens. Austin Hill, man, Chandler Smith was so freaking close, and I was rooting for him. And I was really rooting for him to get that first career win. He came this close and then got passed on the last lap by Austin Hill for the late Vegas win. It is his second win of the year, his fourth career victory. And this is the first time Austin Hill has won on a track that is not reliant on drafting. Of course, he's won at Daytona twice, and he's also won at Atlanta. The new Atlanta, the one, where you actually have to draft and race in close quarters with other people. So congratulations to Austin Hill on that. Of course, we know he's a great plate racer. We know he's always been. It's good to see him win on something, like a mile and a half for once to finally showcase what he can do. Of course, he's going to get a lot of opportunities in the Cup this year besides that DNQ at Daytona. So we'll see what happens throughout the year. Just disappointed, though. Chandler Smith was just so close. He looked so good all day and then unfortunately couldn't close the deal out. He's going to get a win this year. I'm sorry. He's going to get a win. It would shock me if he doesn't. That's all I got to say as far as that goes. On the Cup side, man, I'm telling you, I listed my guys that I said would not make the playoffs, and the two guys in that list, Ricky Stenhouse and William Byron. I already X'd off Stenhouse after Daytona, and I was wrong about that. I'm starting to look like Darian Gillum. But yeah, now William Byron wins at Las Vegas to prove my point wrong. He wins at Vegas. It's his first win of the year, his fifth career win. Him and Rudy Fugle, they're just the find-a-way people, and he dominated that race, and, rightfully so, he won. He swept both stages, managed to get by Larson late for the victory. So, man, all I gotta say is just, wow. I'm shocked, honestly, because I had written that team off this year, and I think it's safe to say they're all keeping receipts of what I'm saying on this show. At this point, I'm being proven wrong on a weekly basis now. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So now, the only guys that I said would not make the playoffs, Gibbs, Gregson, and Almirola, so it's only a matter of time until they win now. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. On to IndyCar at St. Petersburg, and man, what a wild race. But can I just say before we announce who won the race, just again, a testament to the safety features that IndyCar has come out with in recent years. Of course, the aero screen, the things underneath the car to hopefully prevent it from toppling over. Just remarkable work by the IndyCar safety team over the years, because, of course, we know Devlin DeFrancesco got hit head on, or he got hit in the side knocked into the air, which resulted in a lap 1 red flag. Then, of course, later in the race, Kyle Kirkwood's car got jacked up, drove right over Harvey's car, ended both their days. Like I said, just remarkable safety features, because we would have had 2 casualties in that race if it wasn't for that, or 2 life-threatening injuries. But Marcus Ericsson ended up prevailing in that race to get his 4th career IndyCar victory in the season opener. And again, just my thoughts on that race. Thank God for the safety features, but it looked like it was a fun race. Again, another race I missed due to work, but fun race. Great job by Marcus to get the victory. He's really coming along as an IndyCar driver. He might be a guy to threaten for the championship this year, so can't wait to see it. On to the racing news, though. Chase Elliott, of course, we heard some big news on Friday. He was in surgery for a leg injury. Of course, he broke his fibula while snowboarding, and Hendrick Motorsports officials have announced he is expected to miss several weeks as he recovers from this leg injury. In the meantime, Josh Berry filled in at Las Vegas. At Phoenix, though, it is expected to continue to be Josh Berry. Of course, Bob Pockrass announced that on Monday afternoon that Josh Berry was listed on the initial NASCAR portal there for Phoenix. So I wish the best to Chase Elliott, of course, as many of the fans and drivers are. Hope he has a speedy recovery. Just unfortunate, maybe this is why Joe Gibbs doesn't allow his drivers to do extracurriculars during the season. But, gotta let these drivers live, is what Hendrick said. And, we're learning the hard way about it, But Chase is doing something he loved. He's apparently very experienced with snowboarding, just a freak accident. And Josh Berry will do a good job filling in if he does stay in the car. Josh Berry, of course, is going to get a lot of Cup experience with this. Of course, he drove for Spire for a couple races. I believe last year or 2 years ago, he drove for Spire for a couple races to get some seat time. He did okay in those. He's finally in top-tier equipment. And, I wish him the best, obviously. I wish him the absolute best, because Josh Berry's a stand-up guy. He deserves his shot in the NASCAR Cup Series, and I'm excited to see what he can do behind the wheel of Chase Elliott's car. Of course, it wasn't exactly a great debut at Las Vegas, but when you're thrown in last second with really not expecting to be in the car, that's a lot to ask of a driver. So hopefully this weekend will go a little bit smoother for the driver, the interim driver of the 9. Ross Chastain was a guest on Connor Daly's podcast this past week, and in a discussion, of course, with Connor Daly, Ross Chastain has indicated he would like to run an IndyCar in the future, possibly an Indy 500, but for now he is focused on his NASCAR career. Ross had said, in quote, "I just want to race." I like this mentality by Ross. I'd love to see him do an Indy 500 in the future. Not now, but in the future. Of course, we know Trackhouse is rumored to venture into IndyCar. Rumors were spreading wild about that. So it's still on, it's still a possibility, it sounds like. And I'd like to see it, but again, I just don't want to see it now. And the reason why, Ross still needs to work on his racecraft in top-tier equipment. We know Kyle Larson's going to be driving for a top team in IndyCar when he does go run the Indy 500. So, if Ross lands the same kind of deal, I imagine Worldwide Express will venture with him. But again, his racecraft's got to be worked on. He's aggressive, and I like the aggression in his driving, but he's got to, channel it to, he's got to work on it a little bit. And I'm saying this as a fan of Ross Chastain. I just don't feel that his driving style right now would make many friends in the paddock. So I'm hoping he'll work on that for a couple of years. Then maybe, 4 years down the road when he starts getting the hang of running in top tier equipment, maybe he does go and try and test in the IndyCar simulators. Maybe he does venture into some IndyCar tests and hopefully into an Indy 500 ride in the future. But for now, again, I think the best bet for him is just stay in NASCAR, continue to work on his racecraft, get better, especially with Trackhouse. They've done so many great things, Trackhouse and Ross, so hopefully, if Trackhouse does venture into IndyCar, that they'll consider him as the lead driver for that. But one thing's for certain, Ross Chastain's future looks very bright, especially with Kevin Harvick's retirement announcement. Ross Chastain is now the leading candidate to land the Busch sponsorship once Harvick retires. So it's good to see that Busch will stay in the sport. Even better to see they want to back someone like Ross Chastain. We know Worldwide Express is currently backing him to no end, which is fantastic for Ross. He needs that. And now to add Busch to the resume, or to add Busch to the arsenal, that's, he's going to be in this league, or he's going to be in NASCAR for quite a while at this rate. And especially the way he started this season so far, he'll be in the Cup for a long time to come. Now, in top tier equipment nonetheless, and he very much deserves it. He fought hard to get these opportunities, and I'm glad to finally see him get, this chance that he's getting. So, big news announced there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the future, as I said. All right, so IndyCar now. There's a little bit of IndyCar news. They are looking to add races in the southern and the eastern portions of the U.S. with potential international races. Now, we knew entering this season that IndyCar's schedule would look very similar, very identical to 2022's, which is why I gave the schedule, I believe, a D- or an F. So it comes as no surprise that everyone's eyes are on the 2024 schedule. Of course, we know Texas only renewed on, I believe, a 1-year deal. A lot of track deals are expiring this year. IndyCar knows that they need to... I feel IndyCar, whether they say they feel the pressure or they say they don't, they are definitely feeling the pressure from Formula One, who now has 3 U.S. dates. And I think NBC and media outlets are starting to feel that same pressure with ESPN, giving F1 the exposure that they're giving them. So I feel like if you want to treat IndyCar as the premier open wheel series in the United States, if you want it to be viewed as such, there's things that need to happen. And number one is you've got to expand the race schedule. A lot of emphasis is on the Indy 500, and it very well should be, but you got to expand the schedule. That's first and foremost. Number two, you got to add a few more ovals to that schedule. Not the short ovals. I mean, 2 miles or larger. And you got to expand into other markets. I mean, you're very well versed in California right now and on the West Coast, and you're very well versed in the Midwest. Obviously, and that's where IndyCar is going to be most popular, Excuse me. Mid-Ohio. Of course, I'll be there this season. But like I said, they got the Mid-Ohio dates. They've got the, the 3 Indy dates, the Indy 500 and then the 2 GPs on the road course. Then they've got Road America. But seeing that the Truck Series is going back to the Milwaukee Mile, that's a possibility I think they should explore as well. But again, to expand south, and I'm sorry this is contradictory, but I've said you got to abandon Texas. That's number one. Number two, I mean, if you're going to expand, like I said, Homestead's a good option to expand in the south. Homestead would be a great venue. Bringing Coda back would be a great option as well. So I think those 2 tracks would suit very well in exchange for Texas. And then keep St. Petersburg, obviously. Looking up to the Northeast, though, and that's where I think they really got to expand, is the Northeast. Toronto, again, another race that it's really the only race in the Northeast. I mean, you've got New Hampshire out there. I mean, New Hampshire's a possibility. I don't think Charlotte's a possibility. I just don't see it happening again, if at all. Richmond would be a great add again. Of course, they kind of got robbed of Richmond, but that'd be a good add. And then I've said it before and I'll say it again, Watkins Glen and Pocono, both within an hour or 2 drive of the New York City market and the Philadelphia market. And I get drivers don't want to go back to Pocono, but again, you gotta look at the bigger picture and the growth of the series. And also, I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier about those crashes. The safety of these cars is so much better right now than they ever were. But ideally, and I agree with the IndyCar officials, it needs to be a 20 to 21 race schedule, ideally. And then you've got to stop having month-long breaks right after the first race of the year. And then a few races after the Indy 500. I feel like you need to build that excitement, whether it's race every week, race every other week. Like this Texas race, they could have taken a week off, then gone to Texas. Taken a week off, then gone to another track. There's possibilities there. And then they could have easily done, after the Indy 500, like I said, after the Indy 500, you should not be taking a month-long break. Okay? After the Indy 500, it should not be a 1-month break. The Indy 500 is your premier event. It's what you're circling on your calendar. It's also the highlight of your in-season documentary series. It's the highlight of it. Okay? You want people to be excited for the Indy 500, but you also want people to see the bigger picture beyond the Indy 500. Okay? You want people to see beyond that. And the only way to do it, in my eyes, is if you get rid of those month-long breaks. And on top of it, let's face it, NBC has not been exactly a great partner for IndyCar. Now, IndyCar's starting to do more to advertise, but NBC has just not been a good partner for them. I can tell you I haven't seen many ads for the IndyCar races outside the Indy 500. I would like to see a little bit more of that. But again, new venues, I think, is great. I think expanding the series to 20 to 22 races would be even better. And again, I want to see it balanced out with a little more ovals. But, I digress from there. And hopefully, my ideas that I'm pitching out is something every fan is thinking about. And, if you have any ideas, of course, put them in the comments below. Love to hear your feedback as well. But anyway, let's go on to the race weekend picks. And we kick things off with the Xfinity Series at Phoenix. It's the Kyle Busch show at Phoenix. It always is in the Xfinity Series, so I'm going to go Kyle Busch. I'm telling you, as long as Kyle Busch is racing in the Xfinity Series, he's my pick. Cup Series at Phoenix, I'm picking Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney was the guy who almost won the Championship 4 race there in November. He looked really good so far, minus last race. But I think he'll get the job done this week at Phoenix. So Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, they're my picks for this week. I want to thank you guys for watching this episode of Out of Turn 4. Best wishes to Chase Elliott in his recovery. And we hope to see you again real soon for another edition of Out of Turn 4. That'll come up next Tuesday. Until then, goodbye, everyone.